Fan Central Pitside, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, and Connex.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
That's me on the corner.
People don't bother feel like you can predict who is going to be in the shop with me. A ship carry you back at You're controversial. How old were you?
8 years old.
Now we're contemplating.
These are the digits. What kind of episode this was?
Another junction in life.
I have two left foot then, sir. Yeah, know. Yeah, man. See the buckle of the Nigeria now. This is my show and you will not drop word from me. They even know them things. TJ, I can't say that no. You're going to mash up somehow.
You know, say barber shop is really there ready to make your cut.
So, where you cut before? The cut, okay.
Now I'm where I want to be.
The Cut is brought to you by Flow.
Father, what you doing again?
Writing the opera Isaiah.
Isaiah?
Jamaican opera, master.
Jamaican opera?
Yes. It's about the greatest of prophets.
When is it going to be?
5th and 6th of October.
One
weekend only.
Where can I get my ticket?
You have to check social media, master.
Social media?
Social media.
What, Father, you got high-tech, man?
Yeah, man.
Isaiah, October 5 and 6 at the National Arena. 1 weekend only. Don't you miss it.
Rise and shine and start your day with the Wealthy Club's Power Hour. It's a transformative mind-body workout infused with strength training, yoga, meditation, and journaling. Every Wednesday from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Join us for free, live in person right here at the marketplace in front of Camila's Kitchen, or you can join in from anywhere in the world thanks to our friends over at Just Create. And afterwards, refuel with your post-workout breakfast from Camila's Kitchen to truly support your wellness and your fitness goals. Catch us for this special workout hour on CVM TV on Mondays from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. and a repeat at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. WellFit Wednesdays right here at the marketplace. See you there.
What's up, guys? It's Angela Yee. We are on Cooking with Love on CVM TV, and we're going way up. I'm excited to be able to learn some dishes I can make at home and show the chef my cooking skills, or lack of. I've been begging to get on the show.
She's been begging.
I'm like, when am I going to be on? Coffee is the #2 import in the United States, right after oil. Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Flatbush. You know, Caribbean, Asian, we make some jerk chicken fried rice.
Nice, that's what I'm talking about.
Everybody wins. I'm the new chef in charge. This is so amazing, but the best part is, I can tell that this was cooked with love.
September 7 to December 14 on CVM TV.
Schoolboy Football, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Services, Texaco, and Connex.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Based on his personality, what kind of bug would you compare your husband to? Tasha.
A roach.
Hundreds of children who sit the primary exit profile exams, PEP, go to those exams unable or incapable of reading and writing. Hundreds of students who go to the secondary school system go there incapable of reading or writing. Yet we're spending almost 6% of the total value of goods and services produced in Jamaica on the education sector. The question begs, are we getting value for money? What can we do to move the needle forward significantly? And how can we tap into the experience and intelligence of stakeholders in education to engineer a better outcome for all concerned? CVM TV's Education Special gets even more interesting right now. Welcome to CVM TV's Education Special, a continuation. I started this conversation at 6:30 by laying out the tiles for the discussion, looking at the crucial statistics where PEP is concerned, the pass rates, looking at CSEC, and of course looking at something you may have forgotten about when it is that the primary exit profile exams came into being and the tests that it replaced, GSAT before that, and of course the forerunner to all of those was Common Entrance, which reigned supreme for 42 years. I've assembled a panel, my producers have assembled a panel that can have the discussion to inform the discussions as we go forward, to inform the policy making. That's more than anything else that we want to. We want to be talking about things over this series of discussions that can inform where we go next as we look for better outcomes. I've invited Jasford Gabriel. He's principal at Manchester High School, one of our best performing schools in Jamaica. Alex Hepburn, principal of Mona Heights Primary School. Floretta Plummer is commissioner of the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission. Dr. Dayan Kerr is senior lecturer in measurement and educational research at the UWI. And Lynn Vern Wright is the president of the Jamaica Association of Principal and Vice Principals of Secondary Schools, and the man in charge of the place I love to call Nib School. If you know, you know. If you're from Trelawney parts, that's what you refer to William Nib Memorial High School as. Before I get my guests involved, just to say to you once again, the reason we are here is simply because for the billions that we spend annually on education, nobody, certainly I'm not satisfied with the outcomes that we have been getting. And it cannot be that as a serious country, we are satisfied with with the number of children who leave primary school incapable of reading and writing. And then we send these same students to several high schools incapable of being able to read and write. And then we expect that the teachers who get them at the secondary school level will work magic and create out of these students brilliant scholars who will ace multiple subjects at the CSEC level. It's just not going to happen, and we have too many of these students transitioning to the next levels that really ought not to be going ahead, because the remedial part of the program that we have should be able to kick in and to give these students an opportunity to do themselves justice. And you'll be hearing me say that a lot over the next 3 days. Just to recall, 38% of our children, I don't want to say Jamaica's children because it sounds like somebody else's children. It's our children, 38% of them between ages 7 and 15, unable where reading and writing is concerned. Then 56% of PEP students, illiterate, yeah? Those numbers should shock you. Those numbers are numbers that should cause you to go to bed and not be able to sleep. We prepared a package for you just to set the tone for this segment of the discussion, and we want to go to that package now. All right, so I'm told that it's not quite ready. All right, so what we do is this. Let me go to my panel then. Jasper Gabriel, are you here, sir?
Yes, I'm very much here. Good night to you and all your viewers.
Good, just checking. I'm just marking the register if you'd allow me.
All right.
Alex Hepburn, are you here?
Definitely here.
There you go. Lady Floretta Plummer, are you here?
Present, sir.
Excellent. Dr. Dion Kerr, are you here?
I'm very much here.
Excellent. Linford Wright, are you here? Show me your hand, sir.
Present, teacher.
There you go. Thank you very much. All right.
Full class, man.
Full class. Everybody's early and in good form. Sir Jasper, if I may start with you. Part of the reason why I invited the people that we have here is because I don't want to spend a long time in the lamentation segment. You know, many times these discussions talk about the problems, and we don't spend enough time talking about possible fixes. And people have so many ideas as to how we can change the reality that I want to spend a lot of time on that. But you must start with an assessment of the situation and as we have it. And I want to put it squarely to you and ask if, as an educator, a career educator, if you are satisfied with the outcomes you see from the primary school in terms of the exam results, and at the secondary schools, the level at which our students are performing in the key subject areas.
Yeah, good night again to all your viewers. Well, clearly, one could not be satisfied. I am as concerned, or even more concerned than you are, being an educator for a number of years and having had to receive students from the PEP level, and prior to that, the GSAT level year after year. Clearly, one could not be satisfied, and it speaks to a plethora of issues, you know, that continue to plague our system. And if you're talking about solutions, I think the assessment is definitely telling us what we need to know. What we need to know is that a large percentage, you just showed it a while ago in terms of the specifics, large percentage of our students are illiterate and are performing well below grade levels. And so we must then look at the possible intervention strategies that we need to do. We have to look at, you know, I can't talk about this without touching on our placement system, because, you know, the top achievers are placed in quality educational institutions across the country. And then the bulk of the students, you know, they are dispersed to non-traditional high schools where, you know, the learning environment and the teaching and learning and everything is already kind of skewed against them. And so, you know, as we look forward, you know, I've always thought, and research has shown, that the greatest impact on students' performance is teacher quality. And so, having had the data, having accepted the fact that we are receiving students that are well below grade level, we now need to look at how do we intercept the process through the intervention programs that we must put in place. I believe that we have long thrown maybe through the window things like the Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence that helps us to assess how people learn, whether they are spatial, mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, and so on. With this kind of data, we then know how to group persons, you know, and how to get them interested and engaged in the learning process. But to support that, we are going to need high quality teachers. And you know the challenge that we are having with that right now in terms of retaining the best quality teachers that can actually excite and engage and get our students interested in the teaching and learning process. So those are just a few of the issues that I think we will need to address very quickly if we're going to make any inroads into what the current reality.
All right. Before I take any other opening comment from any of my other guests, the package we prepared to set the tone for the discussion is ready. Let's take that now.
At being able the school of choice in GNAT, PEP, A-levels, O-levels, K shot of reaching the pass mark for the student's desired institution. GSAT was heavily criticized for what some described as a brutal preparation regimen to take the entrance exam. Critics also said GSAT did not test critical thinking and analytical skills and therefore was not a real reflection of the child's mental ability. The Ministry of Education decided to pep up its assessment framework with a primary exit profile. PEP's predecessor, GSAT, tested students over 2 days in 5 subject areas. PEP was marketed by the Ministry of Education as a comprehensive diagnostic of the students starting at grade 4 to grade 6 with 3 components. Performance task, or PT, consists of real-world scenarios that will require students to apply their knowledge and skills from the following subject areas: mathematics, science, language arts, and social studies. The PT will be administered in grades 4, 5, and 6. It will be administered by the classroom teacher at school. The ability test is not based on the curriculum. It requires students to read analytically and use quantitative reasoning skills in responding to items. Then there is the curriculum-based test. It assesses grade 6 content only in the areas of mathematics, science, social studies, and language arts. For PEP, the results this year gave much to be hopeful about, with increases in student performances across all subjects. But the same cannot be said about CSEC and CAPE passes, with only 33.4% passing mathematics. English may provide a little more optimism, with 76.4% of the students being deemed competent in the country's official language. While many may argue that these tests do not give the true reflection of students' abilities, these exams are nationally and culturally significant. For both primary education students, D-Day is the day that they discover which uniform they will be donning come September. And for secondary students, the CSEC, the CAPE, and City and Guilds examination results provide a platform for career choice and even life outcomes. So is it time to test the tests? Well, today's installment of Education in Focus on Lead Story, we discuss assessments.
All right, that's our cue to take the break, and when we come back, we'll get the voice of all these stakeholders we've gathered this evening on this very important question. We break for the Easy Draw.
Get ready for a schoolboy football doubleheader. First up, 2023 Ben Francis Cup winners McGraw battle Charlie Mount at 1:30 p.m. Then, Dintle Technical and Uaten High square off at 3:30 p.m. The Costa Cup doubleheader, October 5. See it happen on CVM TV.
Rise and shine and start your day with the Wealthy Club's Power Hour. It's a transformative mind-body workout infused with strength training, yoga, meditation, and journaling. Every Wednesday from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Join us for free, live in person right here at the marketplace in front of Camila's Kitchen, or you can join in from anywhere in the world thanks to our friends over at Just Create. And afterwards, refuel with your post-workout breakfast from Camila's Kitchen to truly support your wellness and your fitness goals. Catch us for this special workout hour on CVM TV on Mondays from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. and a repeat at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. WellFit Wednesdays right here at the marketplace. See you there.
Welcome to the ZZ Lottery Draw for 8:20 p.m. Monday, September 23rd, 2024. The one-drop winning number is 15. The hat-trick winning numbers are 9, 8, 8. The four-play winning numbers are 9, 3, 3, 4. The Lucky Day Lotto winning numbers are 66, 7, 4, 5. The fireball is red. Thank you for playing with Izizi.
Judge Hatchett has seen it all, and with over 20 years on the bench, she knows when someone is trying to get away with it.
This is not on Harold, honey. This is on you.
Everybody has an opinion on what is wrong with education. There are also strong opinions on how to fix education. And as we look at the problem with the view to arriving at a basket of solutions, we have to then interrogate some of the fundamentals of this education system. And one of the things we're tackling this evening is the quality of the tests that are administered at the primary level and at the secondary level, and wonder if, as the old adage goes, that if you can't hit the target, maybe it's not that something is wrong with your aim, but maybe something is wrong with the target. So you need to fix the target rather than spend time fixing your aim. I have assembled an August panel here to have the discussion. We've already heard opening comments from Jasford Gabriel, the principal of Manchester High School. And I want to go to Alex Hepburn now, principal of Mona Heights Primary School, to ask just your overall view on education in Jamaica and where you think the major gaps emerge.
I want to say first that I concur with Mr. Gabriel with his pronouncements in terms of where he sees the challenges. I also think that some of the challenges that we have is lack of transformational leadership, because you can't speak about teachers without speaking about leadership. And where there is no leadership, you're going to have challenges. Another major challenge that we have, and I will deviate a bit from what you said earlier, is that we need to put more resources into education. If we are going to transform education, education needs more funding.
Yes.
And I'm going to say that it can be done. There are many schools in the country that we see where the children are doing extremely well. And it cannot be then said that because of the assessment or because of where the children are from, that is why the children are not progressing well. It has to be that we have to look at what is happening in the education sector.
Yeah.
All right? Where are the weaknesses?
Yes.
Where are the gaps? And I can tell you, a number of our skilled educators, they are leaving the country and they are going elsewhere. That is a major issue.
Massive part of
all right?
Yeah.
A massive challenge too is that we need to start teaching parenting, and that in itself will also help to plug some of the challenges that we're having in the schools. And then we have to take a look at the colleges.
Yes.
We're graduating a number of teachers, but are they truly ready to teach at a particular level? So, you know, it's multifaceted, and we need to really look at what is taking place in the sector. There's no one issue that is causing it. Many challenges that we're having.
Thank you for those comments. I'm going to go to the two ladies now. And just before I do that, you said something that I want to just highlight. You spoke about the need for more resources in the education system. I'm happy you said that, because every time I have a conversation with Linvern Wright about education and I say that there are a lot of resources pumped into education, I get the impression Linvern believes that I'm saying that it is adequate. No, I'm saying it is inadequate, but it's still a lot that is going in there relative to every other sector, a lot goes into education, but that doesn't mean that it is what we need at the quantum that is needed to effect the kind of change that we'll be happy with. Dr. Kerr, your perspective on where we are right now on this day in sports and the significant humbugs to progress and outcomes that we can be happy with and optimistic about.
Okay, well, what the gentlemen have said, my colleagues here, is that this situation, it's really complex. The situation we're now facing is not as simple as we can identify individual variables and fix those. Mm-hmm. I think we have to take a comprehensive look at the system in terms of what the inputs are and what the processes are of those inputs. And invariably, we're seeing what the outputs are, right? Mm-hmm. So if we start with teacher quality, as my colleague said from Manchester, one of the things we'll recognize is that there is the situation with many of our teachers leaving.
Yes.
However, the question is, who are we getting into the system to train? So if we have 18% of our students obtaining 5 CSEC, including math and English, that's about 6,000 students. The question is, where do we get the personnel from to teach out of that 6,000? Mm-hmm. Because we're talking about 6,000 qualified persons now for the police force,
yes,
for teachers,
yes,
to go to university,
yes,
go to NCU, and wherever else they choose to go, or simply to be in employment. Mm-hmm. So the question is that the output is not enough at this point in time,
yes,
to create the kind of inputs we need into the system.
Yes.
And to me, that's one of the first places to look.
Yes.
Right? Importantly, where do our children start and what do they start with? We know, the research shows that if you start with less than 2,000, 3,000 words in your vocabulary, mm-hmm, you're going to be way behind over time. So it's very important that we get a good sense of what we're putting into the system, mm-hmm, right? So while we want all the resources, what are we putting into the system? Mm-hmm. And as it is now, where the children start is not enough to take them through the system. It's a knock-on effect over time. Yes. And what you do find is that many of the children who we say aren't reading at grade 6, at grade 1, they didn't have the skills. So year after year, 1 year of learning, they lose a year of learning, mm-hmm, year on year. So it's important to begin to consider what the inputs are,
yes,
in order to get, and what the processes are in making that output in, yes, order to get to where we want to get to.
Yes, all right. I have Floretta Plummer, the Commissioner of the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission on the bubble. But look at these numbers, though, viewers, where PEP is concerned. Just before we go to the break and then take Floretta Plummer afterwards. Math proficiency over 2019 to 2024. I told you that 2020 and 2021 are out. Look at those numbers. Those numbers, I'm not happy with any of those, not even social studies at 72%, because I'm saying 75 and up is when we could say, okay, we're seeing the fruits of our labor and we're seeing the benefits of our resources. 60 and 67, non-starters. 70 and 72, not so bad. But for a country like ours, we're talking about a Vision 2030, which they say now will not be realized. We're talking about building a workforce for the future. We're talking about building up the human resource of Jamaica. We're talking about literacy levels that are close to what obtains in Uruguay in the Americas in terms of an outstanding comparison to draw. We are nowhere near acceptable standards, and I will not rest until I have the kind of discourse from my chair as a journalist that can help the stakeholders to move the needle forward, and that's why we're gathered here this evening. After the break, you'll hear from the Commissioner of the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission, and then you'll hear from Linford Wright.
Father, what you doing again?
Writing the opera Isaiah.
Isaiah?
Jamaican opera, master.
Jamaican opera?
Yes. It's about the greatest of prophets.
When is it going to be?
5th and 6th of October.
One
weekend only.
Where can I get my ticket?
You have to check social media, master.
Social media?
Social media.
But Father, you got high-tech, man.
Yeah, man.
Isaiah, October 5 and 6 at the National Arena. 1 weekend only. Don't you miss it.
Save so you can live your best life with your Jane Bank savings. You absolutely can. The time by Jane Bank is 8:30.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Travin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
We have a big question to ask this evening of our guests. How do we test the tests administered at primary and secondary school? Are the tests fit for purpose, and are they helping to deliver the kind of outcomes that we can be satisfied with? Before the break, we did share a graphic looking at the pass rates over the period 2019 to 2024 in the PEP exams. We're talking about math proficiency, English, science, and social studies. Social studies showing the best 2024 performance at 72%. But if you look at the movement in English, from 55% in 2019, 67% in 2024, 19 percentage point move between 2019 and 2024 for math, 41 to 60, an 11 percentage point move in science from 2019 to 2024, 49 to 70, and a 9 percentage point move. Remember, you compare percentages, you don't say it's a percent, it's a percentage point. And that puts into perspective where we are with these subject areas. Lady Floretta, how do you see it? The problems we are facing now and the ladder that you would like to put against the wall to help those down to get up?
Let me say this. Good night, listeners. And viewers, rather.
Good evening. Good night.
Let me say this. Over the years, as educators, we make excuses. Too many excuses. First, we start with the infant and the basic schools. And the primary schools, they complain about the students who are coming from the infant school. Remember, the primary principle, you have the students for 6 years. Yet we will complain, and I say we because I was the principal of a primary school. But we'll complain about the students who are coming from the infant school. Okay, even though we have them for 6 years. The high school principals, they will complain about the students who are coming from the primary school. Yet, they also have them for 5 years. You have a job to do as a primary principal. You have the students for 6 years. The high school principals, you have them for 5 years. Do what you have to do. The problem with education, in my opinion, is lack of accountability. Regardless of how long you sit there as principal and you're not performing, it is one of the most difficult, there's no sanction really, and it is one of the most difficult things to have you removed. You'll be there for 10, 12, 15 years, not performing. you blame everything else except your performance. Let us look at another area that we hide behind again. It is called funding. I remember going to a workshop and the principal got up and said, we need more funding, we need more money in the school to function. And I said, tell me what you need at your school to function. And the gentleman was unable to tell me what he needed. So we hide behind all of those.
Yes.
Not to perform.
Yes.
And those are some of the problems that we do have in education.
Yes.
Accountability.
Yes.
Now, looking back at the examination, looking back at the PEP and the GSAT and the common entrance, well, not common entrance, let me take common entrance out of it. And I came out of the system, I was out of the system when PEP started, so I really don't know much about PEP. But what I can say for GSAT is it was an excellent examination. I think maybe the social studies and the science, something should be done to those, the science and the social studies. It was a bit too much for those students who are below age 12.
Yes.
But it was an excellent examination. If you ask me about PEP, yes, my feeling about it, and this is just an opinion, not a fact, yes, really, I do not think the teachers were prepared enough for that examination. When it started, I don't know what it is like now.
Yes.
But then I remember the first 2 years, they were really struggling in their performance, in their delivery of the subject areas.
Yes.
And what it was asking them for.
Yes.
And in addition to that,
yes,
is how we use data.
Yes.
How we use data within schools.
Yes.
Let us take the GSAT, for example. I knew of situations where the principal and teachers did not use the data coming from the lower grades. So let us say, for example, they did an examination in grade 4, I think it was grade 4 literacy, and then you have, I don't remember the names of them now, but you have to use those data. Teach your teachers to use those data.
Yes.
To achieve success.
Yes.
In the examination.
Hear you on that. Linford Wright, you've sat and you've heard the opening perspectives and you've heard some pointed criticism of certain aspects of the system. You're a secondary school man. Your diagnosis quickly of the situation before we get to answering the big question by going around the room, Linford Wright.
Well, just quickly, I think we maybe spend a lot of time talking about assessments when really a huge part of the mix is curriculum and teaching. Really and truly, how do we teach? And it is if you check with many institutions now, one of the things that the predominant mode of teaching really is kind of lecturing, to the kids. It doesn't matter who comes. So at any level you get that kind of thing, and that's one of the things that I think that we will have to address. I don't think that the assessments are any problems per se. There's just one thing I say about assessments, and I say this: if it is that you have an illness and some measure that the doctor uses to find out what is happening to you, some test that he does, you don't throw the test because you have a problem with it. If it is that you had eaten poorly, you had done anything poorly, that is what you have to pay attention to. As I said, don't blame the scale. You have got to look at why is it that you maybe are overweight, that kind of thing, if that's the case. One of the other things I think that we have to look at is we have to look at whether or not we really teach for the children to discover anything. I think a huge part of how we teach is these very tests that cause the problems, because what we do is that we teach to cover rather than to get the children to discover. And it's something that I think we need to look at, very seriously. And know that it makes no sense that the teacher has completed the syllabus.
Yes.
While the children have discovered nothing.
Yes.
Those are things that I think We need to look at some people are doing it well. A part of how we also need to go about things is to look at those who are doing it well. I don't think we do enough. We spend a lot of time admiring some schools that are doing it well. I don't think we spend enough time studying or understudying them to understand how we can get some things, work with them to do it better. That's it for me at this point.
Wow, all right. Not a lot of time used, but you hit a lot of nails squarely on the head there, Linvern, right? Let me go back to Sir Jasford Gabriel. Right, on the question of testing the tests, are the tests fit for purpose? Are you, like Linvern, right, of the view that there, in too many instances, is not enough teaching, but lecturing has replaced teaching, and that is a part of the problem in preparing the students for the tests? Roll that into the answer for me as you answer. Are the tests fit for purpose at the primary and secondary school?
So, 100% in agreement with what Linvern shared. The tests, we have qualified and competent persons training, testing, and measurement at the highest level through the ministry and otherwise. That ensure that the test is reliable and that it's valid and so on. We have this thing where, just like Lindbergh shared, on one hand, the teachers are pressed to cover the syllabus, but in terms of the students discovering, that's a challenge through the system. But the truth is, if we are to be true to ourselves, it's not a hard fix, but the will has to be there and the resources has to be there to get this thing fixed. You look at some countries that we want to model. Look at class sizes in the primary school and secondary schools. They are too large. The truth is, the students that we get from the primary level, they should never leave the primary level at the levels that we are seeing based on the data. I think it's Floret that mentioned the data is critical in the process. One thing that really appreciate at the high school level, when we get a cohort of students, it breaks it down and tells us in terms of literacy, numeracy, proficiency, we know where everybody is in terms of who we get in front of us. So the first challenge is, we are sometimes appalled as to how students could spend so many years at that level. And the fact is, if they can't read, if they can't do basic mathematics, there's no point in questioning the instrument and the validity of the instrument. We now have to find ways in which we can intervene with the special education teachers, smaller class sizes for the students who are having the greatest challenges. You see the package that you shared earlier?
Yes.
The most telling statement I saw in there was when you said, it said, the day for the students leaving the primary school is when they actually realize which uniform they are going to be docking. That is a very telling statement about the state of education in Jamaica.
Yes.
We have less than 30% of high-quality spaces in Jamaica, in the traditional high schools.
Yes.
It is already telling you that about 70% of our students end up in schools that they did not want to go.
Yes.
I can speak for Manchester High School. We have 325 students in the first form cohort. At least a third of them coming on transfer. We are not one of those schools that seek to protect 90% average because we want to get a good ranking. We have students that because of proximity, because of sport, and then we have to get them in intervention programs quickly because they came in at 60s average or below. And so some of the things we have to do is to ensure that we have our pre and post tests. We have to try and find out how these students learn. We have to have the pull-out sessions with them. And we have found that these students are able to pass 4 and 5 subjects and to move on into tertiary studies. So it's telling me, just like I said at the top, we need to look at the quality of the teaching and learning. Linvern is right. Leadership must not only speak to the fact that teachers must be competent. We must know what the teachers are doing as well and see how best we can upskill them so that they can make the learning as relevant and as interesting, so that the students can move from one level to the next, because teacher quality is critical. In our school, for example, we make a big thing about the Bloom's taxonomy. That is still relevant.
Yes.
Levels of questioning. We can't just say people not thinking critically. We have to kind of design the kind of questions and investigatory procedures to get the students to think a certain way. You know, and so these are things that I think are critical, low-hanging fruits, require some resources, but we have to fix them as we go forward.
Hear you on that. Let me take the next break. When we come back, we'll hear from Principal Hepburn and Dr. Kerr again. We'll hear from Floretta Plummer once again. And of course, Linvern Wright will have another say as we close out this discussion. More after these lead stories, special edition here on CVM TV.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
8:45.
Get ready for a schoolboy football doubleheader. First up, 2023 Ben Francis Cup winners McGraw battle Charlie Mount at 1:30 p.m. Then, Dintle Technical and Uaten High square off at 3:30 p.m. The Costa Cup doubleheader, October 5. See it happen on CVM TV.
Ganga is an emotional saga of a woman's journey, all alone in a man's world.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Based on his personality, what kind of bug would you compare your husband to? Tasha.
A roach.
Sometimes we do ourselves a disservice by comparing our outcomes or realities to those of countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, or even just Western Europe broadly. We say, well, we are performing poorly relative to Denmark, we're performing poorly relative to the UK and so forth. I want you to tell me where in Western Europe there's a situation where at the primary school level you have 35 students to one teacher. Yeah, that's the reality in Jamaica. 40 students, 45 students, one teacher. And then we expect outcomes similar to countries in the world where you perhaps, if you have a group of 40 children, you maybe have 6 teachers in that class to ensure that the instruction and direction is spread out and that every student gets maximum value for the presence of the teacher in their midst. What about the CSEC results as I go to the other guests? What have the CSEC results been like over the review period, 2017 to 2024? Look at those. Math, yeah, 50.2, 57.8, 54.6, topping out at 61.2 in 2020. And since COVID, it's been abysmal. 38.2 2021, 33.5 in 2024. And even that number is disputed to say it is too high. What about language, English language at CSEC? 83.9 in 2020, the high water mark. And it's been middling to good since then, 76.4% in 2024. So we're not talking about outstanding results, and there are so many things that we can fix to get better outcomes. Sir Alex, I saw you writing as Floretta Plummer was going through her opening remarks, and then I saw you making notes as Linvern Wright spoke. Testing the tests. Are the tests the problem, or are there things that send children to do the tests who really have no hope and a prayer of doing themselves justice? And I love that phrase. So go ahead with your answer.
I would say absolutely not. The tests are not the issue here. And I think we're missing the point the minute we start focusing on the test. Let us quickly do a quick review of these exams. So common entrance was used to test aptitude, to see how well these children would stand up to the rigor of high school. Now, when we go to GSAT, GSAT should have tested the knowledge and how the children completed the content, but it was more based on rote learning. So I was able to go through X amount of content, and I was able to regurgitate this content in an examination. Now, with PEP, what we have done, we have now created a competency-based examination where we're not only looking at knowledge, but we're looking at how can we use this knowledge to create something, to gain 21st century skills. And with PEP, we are now creating 21st century thinkers. So we're talking about critical thinking. We're talking about decision making. We're talking about project-based learning. And I think we have not fully grasped what this exam should have been doing. We should have these children now focused on more tactile learning. But how can we have tactile learning in a classroom with 35 to 1?
And I don't want you to run beyond that today. Explain for my viewers what you mean by tactile learning.
So our children should be exploring. They should be doing more projects within the classroom because we have different types of learners. So we talk about differentiated learning. So we have children who are more visual learners, more auditory learners. But with this approach, we would be able to reach all the different children within this one classroom. But my question is, if our teacher-pupil ratio remains this high, how can we reasonably expect our teachers to reach these children? I will say to you, as a resourceful leader, I have done it.
Yes.
At Mona Heights Primary School, I can tell you that for PEP mathematics, we have 91% competency in math.
Yes.
In science, we have 91% competency in PEP.
But do you send all of your cohort, or do you cherry pick only the bright ones and send them?
For PEP, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's everybody. We had 180
just to make it clear.
Children who sat PEP. 183.
Everybody goes.
Everybody went. And I'm saying, if one school can have, I did not have a single child at the beginning level. No child that left from Mona Heights Primary School moving on to high school went at the beginning level.
Yes.
It means that we would have been sending children to the high school level who are ready for the high school education. So what I'm saying, it can be done.
Yes.
We would have utilized the data that we gathered over the years, and that's why with PEP you can look at the proficiency level from grade 4.
Yes.
So you would have been getting data from grade 4, 5, and 6 that now can go on to the high school level. With GSAT, you could not do this because you would have children at grade 4, 5, and 6 going to sit and examine 2 days with content that they would have learned in grade 4 and 5. And you expect these children to remember this, to recall this content, and then you call this learning.
Dr. Kerr, your position on the tests. Is anything wrong with the test? Must we fling it out, put something new?
Well, I wouldn't say to throw it out, but I think at this point we probably need to review the test. I want to put something on the table though, because one of the things that's a massive industry in Jamaica is this extra lessons culture.
Huge.
And we have to put this on the table, that a lot of the children who do really well, we have to look at the fact that they're in high-performing schools and they're still doing extra lessons 5 or 6 days a week, including Sundays in some cases. So I am not so sure that the results that we see in some places where those results look good, that it's all because of what's happening in the school. A lot of parents are spending a lot of money to send their children to extra lessons, both at the primary level and at the secondary level. I think if you go into some very prominent high schools, there some evenings, every single subject is an extra lesson going on in that school. So we must be, I want to be careful about the results and where the results come from, right? Because I think that parents are paying for those results through extra lessons. I think also that we want to think carefully about the quality of the instruction in the classroom. Instruction and assessment go hand in hand. And I think on one hand, there is a lot that has to be done both at the primary level and at the secondary level in terms of content. We are content heavy and we're not so much into creating opportunities for children to think. Modeling how thinking takes place. So we do find, for example, that they do well. We will get the passes, but we're not getting the quality passes in that sense, because our children can define, they might be able to comprehend, but for example, with the mathematics, a big part of the problem, and my colleague Lois George has shown that, as well as I have other colleagues who have shown this, that it's the reasoning in the mathematics that is problematic, and the ability to comprehend certain topics. There are some topics that are not being taught in math. We're not teaching matrices. We're not teaching circle theorem. We're not teaching vectors. And so those questions don't get done in that paper 2 of the examination. So the quality of instruction, both at the primary and the secondary level, teaching mathematics conceptually, teaching science in a way that children can engage with it and, as he said, discover certain things. We're not taking those sorts of approaches in the classroom, and that is undermining the children's ability to sit those exams.
Thank you very much for that. Further, before the time runs out on us, you had touched it briefly in your opening remarks, but just let me hear you, your comment resound on this point. From your perspective and your experience, does the PEP exam require tweaking? Should we leave it unchanged? Nothing is wrong with it. Should we look at other things to fix where education is concerned?
I think it should be left. As I said before, in my time we were doing GSAT, and I'm still of the opinion that that was the best exam that we've had when you compare all three. I think it should be left alone. I think maybe the next program we should look at teachers' self-efficacy. That is what we need to look at, because I do not think that all the teachers are in a place where they're comfortable to teach the subjects as required.
So you want more effort placed in lifting the teachers up to a higher standard?
Yes, more workshops.
Yes.
To get the teachers ready.
Yes. Hear you on that. Linvern Wright, insofar as the tests are concerned, you've made your views known, but is there, though, a place for, well, not that. Is PEP mature enough for us to make a call on it, Linvern Wright? Because exams have maturity as well. When the people and the processes become so regular, so almost routine, but not routine in the sense of being boring. But you know your way around PEP. You get the sense that there are some teachers in some schools who are still trying to come to grips with it. Is the exam yet at maturity for us to even be contemplating something new relative to the PEP out of the